Oh my, there are so many of you. I want to take a moment to thank you. We started on this journey January 7th of this year. The doctors said, he could get better. And as we journeyed this pathway together, you, our friends, and our family kept us in your thoughts and in your prayers. And Paul and I both believe that it's those thoughts and prayers and the strength that God has given us as a result of your faithfulness in that kept us going this long. He only lived 2 months and 8 days after we found out. There was no time to think. And there are only 2 things that he said about this service. Number 1, he made it very clear that Major Val was supposed to preach. So she is preaching today. And if you look at the back of your program, you will see this. I have written one of these for my mother, for 2 nieces, my 2 sisters, and for aunts and uncles. When I wrote the first one, they decided that I wasn't going to be able to read it in public, so they had my cousin read it. When my mother died, the one I wrote, they had a lady from church read it. When my niece and my sisters died, I had to do it. And I did it because it was what I could do to pay tribute to my family. Those of you who have known me all my life, or in the last 40 years, you would know that Paul and I have been friends and companions for 35 years, 1 month and 6 days, to be exact. And yet, me reading this was the other thing that he decided had to be done in his service. That's the only 2 things he asked for, was for Major Val to preach and me to do this. And I'm like, how do you expect me to do that? You know what goes on in you know what's going to happen. He's like, I want you to do it. So I brought my lovely assistant, my cousin Maggie, and she's going to stand with me while I do this. And we're hoping that I can get through this. But if I can't.
I'm here.
Okay. Paul Allen Keathley is the second son of Frank J. Keathley and Mary Kathleen Williams Keathley. He is survived by his longtime friend and companion, Eric Bicknell, his father Frank, his stepmother Gail, and his brothers Daryl, Doug, and wife Lori, and Timothy, whose wife is Faith, and his sister-in-law Denise Keathley Roberts, and many nieces and nephews. He is preceded in death by his mother Mary. Paul grew up in Wyandotte, Michigan, where he attended school and graduated from Theodore Roosevelt High School in 1981. After high school, he had various jobs in the retail and food service industries. Paul began working in the housekeeping department of Cranbrook Educational Community in January of 2000, where he has been employed ever since. This next part's an understatement. Paul simply loved working at Cranbrook. I mean, he really loved working at Cranbrook. It's not just the buildings. It's not just the beautiful campus. But it was all the people that he worked with, who came, who he talked to and had interaction with. He really loved working at Cranbrook. But I didn't have enough time to say that in here, so that's what we get. The faculty, students, and staff were mentioned with fondness in his conversations at home. He loved Cranbrook's lovely campus, where we often took walks on the grounds on sunny summer afternoons. He was always eager to get to work, to see all those he would meet. Paul's faith played an important role in Paul's life. And a look at his Facebook page will tell you he wasn't afraid to share it with others. He found scripture verses, or what is my Bible verse, or these things that he would post all the time. And he wasn't afraid to share it with others. He occasionally attended church at the Salvation Army in Wyandotte during his teen years, and later attended the Salvation Army at Detroit Brightmoor, Farmington Hills, and Dearborn Heights Citadel. He also attended Metropolitan Community Church of Detroit and Praise Fellowship. And he really did love his church families in all of those places. He loved coming to church because he loved seeing everybody. There was a highlight of his week. And yes, I'm improvising. I'm the author. I can do that.
What a surprise.
What's that?
What a surprise.
Well, and y'all know I talk too much, so I don't know what anybody would be surprised about. Paul was diagnosed with esophageal cancer and liver cancer in January of 2023. At first, the prognosis was good, even though it was not known if he would make a full recovery. The esophageal cancer could be brought under control. The goal was that he could go to Coney Island and eat an omelet. And the liver cancer was supposed to be able to send to remission for at least 2 years. In mid-February, though, Paul tested positive for COVID, and the stress on his body from the cancer treatment and the COVID was too much for him to bear. While he had intended to go to rehab after COVID isolation to regain his strength, he was instead sent home for hospice care, from where he was promoted to glory on his 61st birthday on the 15th of March, 2023. I did some research. According to Hasidic Jewish tradition, a person who dies on the same day, on the same date that they were born, is seen as a sign from God that their life's mission is completed. I don't know what his life mission was. I'd like to think his life mission was taking care of me. But evidently that's not it, because he's not done with that. But whatever it was, God says it's finished. And as much as I want to disagree, God knows, right? So God knows. Paul was a man of faith who was kind to those he met. He always made time for friends and family. He was a diligent and faithful worker. He left the apartment an hour before work started because he did not want to be late. Okay? And I said, what do you mean? It only takes you 25 minutes to get to work. Yeah, you could leave at quarter after. No. What if I get a flat tire? Then I have to have time because I want to make sure I'm going to be. He would get mad at me if I came home at 3:02 from going to get my lunch because he had to leave at 3 o'clock. That's how dedicated he was to being at work. He was a diligent and faithful worker who always worked to get the job done. He touched the lives of so many around him who will remember him with fondness. If you follow my Facebook page and you see all these extremely long things that I post, because not only do I talk too much, but I'm a writer, you will see in some of them, I've said the last couple of days that Paul touched each of us in his own very special way. And when he left us, he took a little bit of part of us with him. This is tough. I made it through, though. And each one of you was special to him. And I thank God for each of you being his friends and his co-workers, and for sharing him with me over these last long time. We'll just say long time, because I can't say I'm 39 if I say that Paul and I were 35, so I'll just go. But I want Maggie to have a minute here, because she's been my, just in case you saw what happened. So Maggie's got a story.
I do have a story. Thank you, Eric. My name is Maggie Harfoot, and I've known Eric almost all his life. So when I married his cousin, Ken, Eric became my cousin. And we discovered we shared the same birthday, so that really sealed the deal.
Well, that's the best day to be born.
It's the best day to be born, first day of fall, September 22nd.
I don't know why everybody isn't born that day.
I've always known and loved Eric. I'm sorry to say I didn't know Paul as well as I did Eric. We became the type of people, as many of you here probably can agree, you only see each other at funerals and weddings and baby showers. And pretty soon it's just funerals. And we had a particularly hard funeral for my brother-in-law, and Paul and Eric came, and I hugged Eric. I thanked him for coming. I hugged Paul, and I said, "Thanks for coming, Scott." And Paul said nothing. He did not embarrass me. I went and sat down, and I was looking around the room to see who had come, and I looked at Paul, and I thought, did I call him Scott? So afterwards, I went up to him, and I said, "I called you Scott." And he said, "Yeah, you did." So ever since then, it's been Eric and Scott Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, but he liked that.
He did like it.
He thought that was really funny. Okay. I didn't bring my program up with me. What's next?
We have,
Oh, it's the songsters
the
now.
songsters are going to
Okay.
sing. So we're going back down. I'll hold
You
it.
did not expect me to do this in a normal way, did you? I hope not.